Okay guys, so today we're going to look at some more directory operations, some file operations, basically some things that you would do as a network or systems admin, keeping up with logs and things like that, copying and erasing, deleting, and basically just duplicating file operations and directory operations. So let's go ahead and look at the desktop. Alright, so here we are back in Notepad++, and what we're going to do then is we're going to, if you recall from the last lesson, we used the dir command. In fact, let's go ahead and let's do that again. Duplicate that again just to refresh our memory. So we use the import the OS and then the library. Once we have the library, we do os.system, and then we the parameter has to be a string. So if we run this, which we've saved it as 3_2 directory operations. So let's go here, and if we run it, of course it prints out the directory just as if we had typed in the dir command. So we get the contents of the directory just like dir. However, if we want just the working directory, we want the directory itself, because using that dir command, unless you're just wanting to read what's in the directory, using that command is not that useful. So what we want then to do, let's get this out of the way here. What we want to do is get the current working directory as a string that we can use. So let's go ahead and revamp our code a little bit. We're going to create a variable called CWD, and we're going to make that equal to OS. There's our method, and the there's our library, and the method we're going to use this time is getCWD, and that's the current working directory. And we're just going to call that method with no parameters, and then we're going to go back into Python and we're going to print what the current working directory is, and we're going to send it CWD as a variable. Alright, so now if we run this, instead of getting the expected directory with all the contents, we're just going to get the path. And sure enough, current working directory is C Python code, and that's where we are right now. So as you can see, this can be really handy. If you're looking for a file, you can use search features and regular expressions in Python to find the file, and then you can get the file directory very easily. Once you've got the file directory, then you can perform whatever operations you need as far as moving the file, as far as archiving. This is especially useful in log files. So now we know how to get the current directory. Let's go ahead and look at a moving directory. Once we are in a directory, once we know where we are, now we can move. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave the import OS because we're going to need that. And we're going to define a function. I'm going to call it current path. And we're going to print, once again, current working directory. Oops. Yeah, let's do it like that. Current working directory. And then we're going to print going to get the current we're going to print out that current directory on the next line, and we're going to print a blank line. And we're going to call that function. Okay. And then we're going to use a new method called change directory. And what we're going to do is we're going to go, oops, pardon me, there's only one of those. What this does, 2 dots and a slash like that, if you put that into the dir command, essentially what you're doing is moving up one directory. And so that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to call current path again, and it will give us our new directory. Okay, so let's analyze the code. First of all, we imported the library. We have to have that. If we don't have the OS library, nothing works. And second, we defined a function. We named it current path, and the first thing it does is it prints out the word or the string current working directory. And then it prints out the current working directory using that getCWD from the OS, and then it prints a blank line. Now, we've exited our function. We're no longer in the function. But what we're going to do, we're going to call that function, and it's going to print out this. It's going to print out that. It's going to print out a blank line. And then we're going to change the directory. We're going to move up one. So instead of being in C:, Python code, we should move up to just C:. We should go to the straight. And then when we call this again, we should just get C:// for our directory. So let's go ahead and see if that works. And sure enough, current working directory is Python code, and then we change directory, current working directory, C:. But for some reason, it took us then back to Python code. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, hold on a minute, something didn't work right, because here we are. We ran the code. Our current working directory was Python code. Then it changed to C:, but then it changed back to Python code, and you're thinking, why didn't that work? The current directory that changed was the current directory of the process. A process is like a thread, and essentially the this Python program has its own thread. And so what happened was when we ran the script, that current directory changed. The command line, or the command window, is on a different thread, and it did not change. So it's currently listed as Python code. Now, if we wanted to change that, directory, we would have to work outside of Python. So we could type in cd C://. And now, as you'll notice, we're in the C directory. Let's go back to Python code. Okay, so now we're back in Python code. We could have also used that and gone back up to the root directory that same way. But what matters is that the thread did not change. If you want to change the actual thread of the command line, you have to use that cd command. You can't use the change directory, because this just changes the directory of the process and not the directory of the command line window. So that threw me off when I first learned of it. It was complicated and I didn't understand why, but that is according to the documentation, that is exactly what has happened. Is if you want to do cd or if you want to change the window process, you have to use the cd command. All right, so having done that, let's go ahead and look at let's look at some file operations then. Okay, so what we're going to do next is basically create a directory. So this script will allow us to create directories basically wherever we want to. First of all, once again, we have to import the OS library, because if we don't, then we're going to be unsuccessful. And then let's create a variable, directory name, and we're going to call that Python directory. Okay, so this will be the name of the folder that we're going to build, and then we're going to use the OS library and the make mkdir, make directory command, and we're going to put our name in there, and then we're going to print the results. We're going to say print directory, and let's go ahead and name it. I didn't feel like typing that. Created. Okay, so we're using string concatenation here basically to say that yes, we managed to create that directory. Now, a caveat: if there is a directory of that name already in existence, Python will quit with an error and basically say, can't get in there, can't do that because that directory already exists. So let's go ahead and look and make sure that such a thing is not there, and it's not. So let's go ahead and save our code, and we're going to go ahead and run it. So Python exercise 3_2 directory operations.py, hit enter. And it says directory Python, or Python directory, pardon me, was created. And so if we go back and look at our folder again, now we see that we have a Python directory. There's nothing in it, but in fact we can now use that directory, and we can add things and create things. So essentially these are some of the operations that you might perform as a system admin. You could build a Python script that, based on conditions, could create directories and move files into those directories and do all kinds of things that would make your life a lot easier, not having to do them manually. So that's another method from the OS library, that make directory. All right, guys, so I hope this was helpful. We learned some new methods from the OS library, and we learned some new techniques that we can use to make our lives easier as a system administrator. If you have any questions, I can be reached through the Canvas inbox, or you can catch me after class. In the meantime, have a good day. I'll see you around campus.